Just a reminder to vote in this week's Locals poll, where you decide what deck I take to Locals every single week. Without any further ado, I hope you enjoyed the video. What's up YouTube, welcome back to the channel, and today we have the deck profile for the deck we took to Locals this past week, being Red Dragon Archfiend, or RDA for short. We got 4th place, which isn't that bad, but I was a little disappointed because I feel like the deck has a lot more potential than what we were able to show, and that was partially due to getting sacked a couple times, but we'll get to that later. Here's a look at what the deck looks like on paper, then we'll get to the card by card. Okay, so starting off with our non-tuner monsters. So we have 2 copies of Red Warg, 1 Bone Archfiend, 3 copies of Wandering King Wildwind, and 3 copies of Red Sprinter. Alright, so these are all of our non-tuners. So Red Warg can special summon itself from your hand when you normal summon a Resonator. I'm running 1 Bone Archfiend because it can special summon itself back from the graveyard. So I think just being able to pitch a card to summon it from the graveyard warrants only running 1 since you can recycle it. Wandering King Wildwind. So if we control a Fiend Tuner, so basically any of our Resonators, we can special summon this from our hand for free. And then, of course, in the graveyard, we can banish it to search for a Resonator. So it's really nice follow-up, as well as an extender. Red Sprinter, this is a solid normal summon. If we don't control any other monsters, we can special summon a Resonator from our hand or graveyard. So just a solid level 4 that we can summon there. Next, for one of the better normal summons in the deck, besides our Red Sprinter, is I'm running 2 copies of Soul Resonator. So basically, I'm running 2 of this because we can use the Crimson Gaia to get it back from our graveyard to our hand. So I didn't think running 3 would be ideal. Figured just having 3 Resonator Call in addition with the Crimson Gaia, we would only need 2 of this. And when it's summoned, we can search for any level 4 or lower Fiend monster. You're normally going to be going for the Bone Archfiend, of course. And then Bone Archfiend can send the Resonator from deck to grave to change this to a level 4, and you can go into the one of your level 8s. Then this also has a grave effect where you can banish it to prevent a card you control from being destroyed while you control Red Dragon Archfiend. So it's not bad, but it's mainly for the synchro capabilities and is arguably the best normal summon in the entire deck. Alright, so next, we got 3 Crimson Resonator, 2 Red Resonator, and 2 Vision Resonator. Okay, so Crimson Resonator is the best Resonator just because it facilitates your Supernova plays. So while you only control a Dark Dragon Synchro monster, you can summon 2 other Resonators from your deck. So this helps you summon Red Supernova Dragon. Really, really good. It's also a free special summon. And you can also use it to bait out a negate since it is an activated effect. So you can use that to bait a negate and then use something like Red Sprinter to go into one of your synchros. So kind of nice there. Red Resonator. So when it's special summoned, you gain life points equal to 1 monster on the field, so that can be useful in time. And then also, if you absolutely have to normal summon it, you can special summon a Fiend monster from your hand. So again, it just facilitates more synchros. Vision Resonator is a nice free special summon if there's a dark monster with more than 2,000 attack on the field. And when it's sent to the grave, you get to search for a spell or trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend, so this is really nice. And since it does say Red Dragon Archfiend in the text, we can get it back with Crimson Gaia, so we can just keep on synchroing. Rounding out the monsters, we have our level 1 Resonators. So I'm running 1 Synchron, 1 Chain, and 1 Mirror. So I like to use, when I go for Supernova Dragon, I really like to use Synchron to get the Soul Resonator back to my hand. So that's really nice. Chain Resonator is a solid normal summon. If you, say, have one of your level 8s on the field, you normal summon this, special summon another level 1 out of the deck, and you can go for Tyrant, Red Dragon, Archfiend, or you can go from the level 8 to Abyss, and then into Bane. So that's really good. Mirror Resonator is a potential extender if you're going second, or if you need to get back into the game by special summoning itself if your opponent is the only one with something from the extra deck, so that's nice. Moving on to the spells now. We're going to be running, of course, 3 Resonator Call. This is a non-once-per-turn searcher of a Resonator monster. And I mentioned before that I kind of got sacked a couple times. So in Game 3 against Kashtira, he used the level 4 monster, Kashtira Riseheart. He special summons itself, and then it banishes the top 3 cards of the deck. And of course, the player can look at the face-down banished cards. And when so I had them on the deck, I went doot, 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 and then just flipped them up so I could see. Lo and behold, it was literally all 3 copies of Resonator Call. So while that was absolutely hilarious just because of the astronomically low chances of that happening, it sucked. So we ended up losing that match, unfortunately. But, hey, you can't win them all. So, moving on to some of the other spells, we are going to be running 1 Scarlet Security and 1 Resonator Engine. So, Scarlet Security, it is searchable with the next card we're going to talk about, Crimson Gaia. So that's why we only run 1. And basically, while you control a Red Dragon Archfiend, it is a Harpy's Feather Duster. So it's a searchable Harpy's Feather Duster. Resonator Engine, basically, if it's late game and you really, really need a resource, you can target 2 Resonator monsters in your graveyard, add a level 4 monster from your deck to your hand, and then shuffle those back into the deck. I'm only running 1 of this because it is kind of situational. And I will also go ahead and say I am planning to replace this card with Synchro Rumble when it comes out in Age of Overlord, which is basically a monster reborn for a level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchro. So this card is going to be replaced, and partially because this card was also glued to my hand last night. There was maybe only a couple of games where this wasn't in my opening hand. For some reason, I don't know why it was glued, but yeah, I'm going to replace it with Synchro Rumble when that comes out in Age of Overlord, just so we can get more of our dragons back from the grave. Next, running 2 Crimson Gaia. So this is a continuous spell, and then once per turn you can add a card that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then it does some other battle phase shenanigans by flipping your opponent's monsters face down on attack declaration. And then when a monster or monsters is destroyed, you can special summon a Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard. So that's really nice. Definitely one of the better cards of the deck. And one of the cards that you're going to want to search out is, of course, Absolute Power Force. So basically, this turns your Red Dragon Archfiend into a Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon. It does piercing and double battle damage. And then it also goes up to 4,000 attack, and then your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. So, yeah, really nice. Really, really nice card. Really nice for closing out games, doing a lot of damage. Next, we are running 2 Resonator Command. So, basically, this allows us to discard a Resonator monster to add one of our non-tuners, or you can change a Resonator out for a different Resonator. So say you can discard a red Resonator to search Crimson Resonator if you happen to not open one of your copies of Resonator Call. So this just provides for some flexibility, but I did cut it down to 2 to make room for some of our more powerful trap cards, which is what we're going to talk about next. So the first ones we're going to talk about are Red Rain and Time to Stand Up. So Red Rain is just really nice. If you have a level 8 or higher Synchro monster, you get to banish everything that's not the highest level on the field, and then the monsters that are left on the field are unaffected by everything else until the end of the turn. So that's really nice. Nice way to interrupt your opponent during their turn. Time to stand up. I actually used this in Game 2 against Kashtira to get 2 of my Resonators out, and then I immediately Synchro Summoned for King Calamity next turn because he banished my red Supernova Dragon from my extra deck with, I think it was Unicorn, I think is the one that does the extra deck. But this is a decent card, and then you can banish this to negate a monster effect while you have a level 10 or higher Synchro, so that's nice. Next, this is sort of a unique choice, I guess, but I also decided to run 1 copy of Waking the Dragon in addition to 2 copies of Red Cocoon. So, Waking the Dragon, I'm running this because since the deck is very reliant on cards like Crimson Gaia and Red Zone, which we'll talk about later, to just really stockpile your advantage, I thought to myself, the deck is a lot more susceptible to spell and trap removal now. So this is a way to punish our opponent for using the spell and trap removal by being able to summon literally any of our synchro monsters from our extra deck. So a good application for this is when they say activate Heartbeat's Feather Duster, you summon Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, and then boom, you just have a negate. It's like, oh, thanks, now I have a negate. So nice little way to troll there. Red Cocoon. This is a nice way to protect your Red Dragon Archfiend. So basically, when that Red Dragon Archfiend battles, it negates your opponent's monster effect until the end of the damage step. And then if this is sent to the grave, during that same end phase, you get to reborn a Red Dragon Archfiend. So that's really nice there. And then finally, rounding out the main deck, 2 copies of Red Zone and 1 copy of Red Screen. So Red Zone, this is a once per turn pop. If you have Red Dragon Archfiend on the field, it also allows you to special summon a banished Synchro, so it's kind of a contingency plan for Bestials. And then Red Screen prevents your opponent from attacking, just at the cost of 1,000 life points during your end phase. So it's a nice little contingency plan there, just in case you get hit with a board wipe or something that you can't stop. So yeah, that's it for the 40-card main deck. Moving on to the extra deck now. Of course, we are going to be running the 3 copies of Red Rising Dragon, arguably the best card in the whole deck. This allows you to go into any of your Synchro plays, especially your Red Supernova plays, although I did not get to make Red Supernova at all last night, partially because in the round against Kashtira, he always sniped that out of my extra deck first. So, yeah, that was kind of stinky, but next we are running 1 Red Wyvern. So this is a less commonly seen card, but Jack Atlas did run it during the Arc 5 anime, and it actually has a pretty decent removal effect. It's basically once while it's face up on the field, if there's a monster with more than 2,400 attack on the field, you can pop it. So, nice for potentially interrupting your opponent's combos. Next, going to the level 8s, we've got Scarred, and of course 2 copies of the original. So I'm running 2 of the original, since that way we can recycle this with cards like Crimson Gaia and things like that. So that way we have more than one use for it. Then of course the original Red Dragon Archfiend, good for getting rid of opponents' defending monsters. Next is Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, and then also Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. So Scarlight is, I would say, the MVP of the night. He put in work, especially against Kashtira. So, like, even after he banished my Red Supernova Dragon, I made this. You know, and I was sure to bait out the Fenrir beforehand. So, and this way, I Synchro Summoned it, and then just wiped his entire field, except for the Shangri-Ira, since it can protect itself. But at one point, I dealt like 3,000 damage in one go, just with this guy. So, MVP of the night. I love this guy. His artwork is amazing. And yeah, he put in lots of work. Hot Red, this is basically just for another name. And if I'm planning to synchro climb into something like Abyss, then I can use, this going first. That way I don't waste a Scar Red or an original Red Dragon Archfiend. That way I can use this. So just another option there, so we're not burning through our resources too quickly that we don't want to lose. Next, I am running 1 Abyss and 1 Bane. So this is a negate. This is a Monster Reborn, basically. So that's nice. Come here, you. There we go. And then we are, of course, running my favorite Red Dragon Archfiend monster, Tyrant. So, unfortunately, I did not get to make him. I wish I could have, but I unfortunately did not get the chance. However, if we would have the ability to wipe out the entire field, except for himself, of course, so that's really nice. And basically, if you make this, you basically already had game anyway, and you're just trying to flex. But it sure would have been nice to be able to make him, just to say I could do it. We are also running a Majestic Red Dragon as a Waking the Dragon target. So, basically the logic behind this is we can special summon it from our extra deck off of the effect of Waking the Dragon. Alright, but now, assuming that's going to be during our opponent's turn, what it does is during the end phase, it returns itself back to the extra deck, and then we can special summon one of our Red Dragon Archfiends from our graveyard, which also includes Scarlight as well. So we can have this, this, or this. Basically just a free reborn, because the odds that he's going to be able to, out of 4,000 body, not so sure about that. So this is just a nice way to get a Red Dragon Archfiend back after some spell and trap removal if we need it, thanks to Waking the Dragon. And then finally, for our level 12s, I got King Calamity and Red Supernova. So King Calamity, I actually summoned it twice. Since my Supernova got sniped out of the extra deck, I made this instead. And it actually did kind of come in clutch, so I mean, it helped me to win the game against Kashtira and then one of the games against Infernoble, so that was nice. And then Red Supernova Dragon, unfortunately, didn't get to summon him, but that's because it got sniped, literally first chance that he got. So, but yeah, this is a really good one. This is kind of your game plan going first, is to make this. So, yeah, and then you can banish it during your opponent's turn when either they A, activate a monster effect, or B, declare an attack. It banishes itself and then all cards they control, and then it returns during your next end phase. So, yeah. So yeah, just a really nice power card there. Unfortunately, did not get to summon it due to some sacking, but it is what it is. 4th place isn't that bad. I do wish we could have done a little bit better. And I will also say that I did lose every single die roll, so I think if I was able to kind of have that choice going first, even with things like Dimension Shifter and Droll, which I both had to play under, I think we could have done a little better if I got that choice of going first or second. But hey, can't win them all. 4th place is not that bad. So make sure you vote in the locals poll to decide what deck we take to locals this coming week. Last time I looked, very surprisingly, Amazonas is actually in the lead, which I did not expect at all. So if you don't want me to take Amazonas, make sure that you go vote in the poll. So yeah, that's going to be all for this video. I'll see you guys next time.